Going live, hey everybody. Gonna do a video tonight. Alan's gonna be jumping in here in a minute. He's doing his on Facebook also. He's got a bunch of stuff. He called me up tripping out. Have you heard about all this stuff with chocolate? And have you heard about this? Yeah, yeah, I know a little bit about the chocolate stuff, and so we're gonna get off on some of that and some scripture, I'm sure. We're hoping to get on live with Earth's History is Confusing. We had emailed it them. Hey Stu, what's up? Waiting on Alan to join in here. He and I were together and he dropped out, so I went live. He's trying to simultaneously do it on Facebook. But we're learning. Did you see the one where Alan and I went on Earth's History is Confusing, Stu? The other night? Or the other morning. It was not for them. They're getting better. That was a heck of a learning curve. Poor guys. But they got it fixed. They got it all fixed. Well, where'd you go, Alan? He probably had to restart his computer. That happens so much. Just before we go live, Alan's computer starts getting all choppy and freezes up, and he has to do a restart. That's crappy. But talking about those videos and stuff today that we had looked at, the Rife thing still has me going. The Royal Rife, it's got me just going. There's Alan, that Royal Rife, learning that and going on and doing more research on him. That just, wow, we sure could have been using this technology for good for a long time. And you act like you can't hear me.
No, I can't hear you. I'm just waiting to say welcome everybody to Flat Earth Nation. It is a Flat Earth Nation. Don't let them tell you anything else. I struggled just a few minutes late. Tommy from Texas, how are you doing, brother?
Good, man. Good. Hey, Vic. Hey, Stu. I was sitting here just talking with the folks till you got in.
All right.
You disappeared, and I said, well, I'm going live.
I can tell you've been going for 3 minutes.
All right.
Nice.
And I was talking about that, learning that stuff about Royal Rife and learning that they knew, they demonstrated healing with frequency. And that's so aggravating to me that so much good can be done with simple things like that. And they just completely kept it from us.
They've got to quit saying that they care about the women and the children first.
They don't care.
They don't care. They don't care.
I don't care a bit.
I got a couple of scriptures we could open up with if you don't care if I share the screen.
No, share away. Let's do it.
Let's see how this works. I'm sharing on my screen while I'm sharing on your screen.
Exactly.
I just wanted to get your comment, Tommy, on Numbers 21:9. So Moses made a bronze snake and mounted it on a pole. If anyone who was bitten looked at the bronze snake, he would live.
Wow. A snake bite kit right there. That's pretty cool.
Well, that's something going on. We don't have time to get into that one, though, Tommy.
That's pretty cool, though.
Hey, look what I got going here. I finally remembered, like, if I'm in a chapter and I want to see, like, how many times Jesus said, you know, it's going to come on this generation, I can just do that old Control F, type in generation.
Right.
And then look, there's 4 times in this one little thing here.
Right.
I'm going to read them.
I think he was talking to them.
As the crowds were increasing, Jesus said, "This is the wicked generation. It demands a sign, but none will be given it except the sign of Jonah. For as Jonah was a sign to the Ninevites, that's like the Ninevites, so the Son of Man will be a sign to this generation. The Queen of Sheba from the south will rise at the judgment with the men of this generation and condemn them. Well, thanks. That's all they'll need. That's all we need. For she came from the ends of the earth, not around the corner of over the edge or around the globe, to hear the Sophia, the wisdom of Solomon, and now one greater than Solomon is here. The men of Nineveh will stand at the judgment with this generation and condemn it. So they got that going. It's almost like they're going to be planning it. Sheba and the people from Nineveh going like, you ready? You ready? Okay, mock them.
Right.
And here's the hard part. Here's the part that you never liked this part. I never liked these two verses. Luke 11:50. As a result, this generation, that generation we can say now, will be charged with the blood of all the prophets that has been shed since the foundation of the world, from the blood of Abel to the blood of Zechariah, who was killed between the altar of the sanctuary. Yes, I tell you, all of it will be charged to this generation. Tommy, how come we can't scare these people?
He was pointing at them. You people are going to be charged with this. Your fathers killed them. You built their tombs.
You built their tombs.
Right. It's just it's them. It's not us. How can that even be morphed into translation of they were talking about us? How do they get that? How do they make that leap? By saying, oh, that was just metaphor. He meant us. We
It takes millstoners. It takes people that were trained to deceive the children. It takes implicity. It takes people being sidelined by bread and circuses.
It's so blatant for us now. But even for us, for decade after decade, we read those verses and didn't see that.
Well, it could be. I honestly think it's because of this, but let me see if I can phrase it right. That they will fight to protect you. Were you listening to me, Neo? Or were you looking at the woman in the Neo?
It was something like that, you know.
Right.
Are you looking at me, or are you looking at the lady in the red dress? Unfortunately, too many times, you know, if you're not focused on the Lord, it seems like, well, there's nothing better to do at this particular time.
Right.
Yeah.
It goes to challenging and applying oneself.
That Job made a covenant with his eyes.
Right. Quick question, please, guys, says Vic Noid. Stu, she wants to answer. What's your opinion on antidepressants? I think I already know the answer. Well, they're not good. Good.
Right. What you have working there is, if you want to go to your antidepressants, like let's take Prozac because it's the most common. And the 90% of the active ingredient, when you read over there to the right, is acetylsalicylic fluoridic acid, and the base of that is fluoride. We teach, I've been teaching about fluoride for years. It's a mind killer. It's something that you need to sweat to get out of your system. It's their control weapon, and you cannot underestimate it. They don't know, they won't admit that they know how serotonin reuptake inhibitors work. But my guess is they're not making you deal with your problems, they're making you forget them.
Right. It's not a cure, it's a dark hole that they get you to work in. You just can't remember. You don't. They just blank your mind. It's sad.
With think we should get into some pretty strong questions here. If you don't mind, I'm going to grab and share that screen again.
Right.
And we'll just look at a couple of things because I'm going to want your opinion. And let's see, do I have some of those pictures pulled up? I do. Here's a new one. I have it reversed just so that, you know, this is in parentheses here. And on this angle, you can tell it's supposed to be an Eye of Horus, at least in my opinion.
Sure, if you turn it that way. Right.
Yeah, if you make it, you know, if you look for it, you got to want that, you
right.
know.
You got to really be looking for it.
And I also turned it around, but I wanted you to see the double-headed eagle, and that although they are similar, they're not synchronistic. I mean, they're not total symmetry here. They're just kind of like the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere of your brain.
Right.
With this little, you know, where your vision crosses over, you know, those nerves, and your corpus callosum, you know, divides the brains and comes up from this a magnet of your heart that throws out an aura with arteries that go to both sides of your lungs. One's bad, one's good. I'm just saying, these are things I've been, and here's that year.
Right.
Maybe that's another reason I had it turned over. You know, we just need to drop these reminders, and everybody needs to keep this ever present here, because it's not an eye.
Right.
That's an eye. Maybe it's one of those J's.
Who knows?
But it's definitely a Habsburg coin from that year. And what year did they go away? It was World War One. They had to go bye-bye. Yeah, it was like, hey, how you guys doing? And they go, hey, we just came to say goodbye.
Right. Coincidence? I think not.
You like this thumbnail I used for my the meme I used for my thumbnail tonight? Check it out. Look at that.
Right.
2020, the Corona scam to shut down the world economy for the great. Isn't it weird that one show, that TV show, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang?
That's George Washington, ain't it?
You'd think that's George Washington, but you know, everywhere I look, I'm finding people that look like George Washington.
Get out.
Especially that, you know, Frederick the Great of Germany, the guy the Nazis loved so much. When they'd even leave the Kaiser out. They like Frederick the Great. They like Bismarck, Hindenburg, and Hitler. But hey, look, doesn't this look like maybe Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, or maybe that's Daniel himself? So this George Washington is helping out this George Washington, because all their gods wanted to look like George Washington, the father of many, many countries, the clones all over the world.
Right.
I wonder if I have this set up just for the picture or any audio.
His cousin, Duke Charles August of Zweibrücken. But nonetheless, inheriting Bavaria ended up providing him with a way of getting out of this situation. Because although he wasn't particularly interested in his...
Tommy, this is just so that I can kind of get people to be ready for later. I'm going to be talking about, like, well, where do you think that Prussian school came from? Like that, you know.
No, not you.
Yeah, it's those guys. It's those German guys that did that in 1848. It led right to that Prussian school.
Get out.
Two, Tommy?
Get out. Those people wouldn't do that.
Tommy, yeah, Tommy, they don't care how many touchdowns you got. They're just mean. So
no,
I wrote,
they are out there for... They are out there to better humanity. Just ask them.
It's those Olmecs, Tommy. And how about that? I wrote down the time instead of having to fish around for it live on your show. Check this out.
I really believe people were the ancient civilization and that they were the ones who hit upon, somehow or another, I don't know how they did it, manufacturing chocolate out of this rather odd plant. At any rate, regardless of that, we know who the next people were who had chocolate. And the next people, because this is well documented by the Maya themselves, were the lowland Maya. This is the Maya area, the Yucatan Peninsula, neighboring Guatemala down here, Belize, which some Guatemalan has not put the border here properly, southeastern Mexico here, the state of Chiapas. In this region here, Maya civilization arose. Certainly not long after the time of Christ, and by 250 AD, we enter what we call the classic period of.
Boy, that doesn't seem very long ago for ancient history, Tommy, from Texas.
No, it doesn't really. 250 AD. So Christ had come back already, and that was during the millennial reign, was it not?
It's just sad that we could, you know, they added the 1,000 years. The best we could do is come up with making it into a banana republic and getting their rubber.
Right.
And by the way, I remember the name of that one peninsula I couldn't think of earlier. There's like, why couldn't they go from that that one peninsula that everybody knows that, you know, with Chichen Itza and stuff? It's the Yucatan.
Right.
Like we're supposed to believe they couldn't skip over from the Yucatan to Florida.
Hey, they were just primitive, civilization. Come on, man.
The one I wanted to go back on.
They were going to make a big cube. They just so lazy it turned into a pyramid. They couldn't finish the cube. It wasn't supposed to be a pyramid.
Check this out. They said that these pods look like almonds. So maybe when they're saying that the almonds on the Corinthian pillars, maybe they were really cocoa seeds. And the big mystery here, leaving, you know, the reminder thing, because reiteration and redundancy and repetition are the three keys to advertising. So we've got to use them somewhat. Maybe the almond seed was what's engraved on those capitals and pillars all over the world. But just a couple more minutes about the very football-looking cocoa.
Right.
You would think if you broke one of those things open that that's the source of the cacao that produces chocolate, but it is. This happens to be in Bali, a Balinese friend of mine. Cacao is now grown all over the world in the tropics. Wherever there's enough rainfall and the right kind of environment and rich soils, it is grown commercially. And they grow it in Bali and large parts of Indonesia, as well as Africa and other places. So he's broken open this cacao, my friend Budi here, to show you what's inside.
I mean,
and
come on, man. You had to call him Budi?
Doesn't look like chocolate at all, does it? It's got these seeds inside it that are coated with this kind of white, almost translucent, fleshy material that is extraordinarily sweet. It's actually delicious. If you chew this stuff off the seed that's on the inside, it's really wonderful. And that is what the some of the dispersers of cacao in nature love. It's often dispersed by monkeys who come after this stuff and break open, and also parrots, break open the pods and eat the fruit, and then of course finally expel the seeds. They're after this. They won't eat the seeds because the seeds are bitter because they're full of alkaloids. So how do you turn this thing into chocolate? There it is there. You can see some pods. This is in Tabasco in Mexico, broken open to show this fleshy fruit. These seeds are flat. The Spaniards call them, when they're dried, they dried inside, they look like almonds, and they call them almendras in Spanish. They're really quite distinctive, but this pulp itself is really quite delicious, and I'm surprised that kind of fruit isn't sold in the markets, because it's sort of like lychees. They're really good to eat. So how do they turn this stuff into chocolate? They have to, the people who grow cacao, who harvest it, they harvest these pods when they're ripe, break them open and dump the contents out, often into a trough or basket or something like that. And then, because there's so much sugar in that sweet pulp, it starts fermenting in this being the tropics, and it builds up quite a temperature. Finally, all that pulp that has fermented runs off as a kind of a wine. And as a matter of fact, you can drink it and get a buzz on. And again, I'm surprised somebody hasn't thought of commercializing this kind of thing. It doesn't.
I'm surprised nobody sent me any of that because they make it sound yummy.
You're right. So far, right?
I mean, do you want some, Tommy? I know I do.
Yeah, I want to taste it.
If you ate that seed, it wouldn't taste the least bit like cacao. You wouldn't like it. It's bitter. You'd want to spit it out. It wouldn't taste at all chocolatey. So what has to happen? Finally, then, once all that stuff has gotten off the seeds, the fermentation takes place, then the seeds have to be dried, the kernels that are inside there, what the Spaniards call the almendras. And here they are being sun-dried. Today, this is, of course, commercially in ovens in the big chocolate companies. But the process that was discovered thousands of years ago in Mesoamerica for processing this is exactly in theory and almost in practice the same as used today by big companies like Hershey. So here it is, you have to dry these seeds. Then these seeds have to be winnowed and roasted. And they've got a sort of a thin shell on the outside that you have to take off, and the roasting process has to take place. And until all of that takes place, the fermentation, the drying, the winnowing and roasting and so forth, there's no chocolate flavor whatsoever in that stuff. It's only when that happens that you have the chocolate flavor. Then in Mesoamerica, in Mexico and Central America,
he has no, shouldn't he go? And not only that,
Right.
I mean, there's no like build it up. I mean, there should be music playing because I mean, this is super important. It's like these guys figured out everything else, and then this too.
Right.
in pre-Hispanic times, they would put these seeds, a pile of them, now all processed and roasted. They would place them on a metate, a stone, grinding stone, same that you use to grind up corn for to make into nixtamal, to turn into tortillas. And they would grind this up. This metate had to be heated, though. During the grinding process, there has to be heat applied. So they built a fire underneath this thing so that it was really quite hot when they ground it. And this, again, the heat is something when they grind today, they still have to do that same thing to get the chocolate flavor. The end product of all of this, of these grinding these.
So that's, to me, fascinating stuff right there. Once again, I really appreciate the fact that our subscribers allow us to teach at the, PhD level. Because a lot of times they say, Trump people only want to go down to the 4th grade talking level. Oh, shoot. I hope I didn't lose you.
I'm there.
Oh, good. Okay.
No, that was Kathy.
Oh, good. Thank you for taking the time here. I just wanted you to hear the introduction. This guy who sponsored it from 1885 or 1898.
Right.
One of his qualifications is he's going to provide it at Yale. Guest speakers, as long as they don't endorse any religion. See if we can pick that up.
You're breaking out.
On behalf of the Graduate Council, the Academic Senate, it is my very great pleasure to welcome you today to the second of 3 Hitchcock lectures to be given by Professor Michael Coe. The Hitchcock Endowment Fund was established from a bequest made by Dr. Charles M. Hitchcock in 1885 to a professorship at the University of California for free lectures upon scientific and practical subjects, but not for the advantage of any religious sect nor upon political subjects.
Am I back now, Tommy? Did it work?
Yeah, we saw some of it.
Yeah, so it just, as long as it doesn't advance any religion, you know.
Right.
Free topics for, you know, so it's been 130 years now, you know. Way to go, buddy.
All right.
Yeah.
But you know, the Mayan deal, for what we know about them, they still won't make the God and the Bible connection with their tech, with their, you know, their lifestyle, their astronomy. It still won't do it.
In what way do you think that, you know, yeah, I'm just tying them into the Bible strongly in the last week. I mean, it's kind of like the Olmec. We're just like out of sight, out of mind when we're looking for giants, you know?
Right.
And there's something more to it with the chocolate, the tea, that now they've said, you know, somebody said we should all be equal. So now every sacred herb is, you know, everywhere on every breakfast table. If you want one, you got one. Sometimes you have 3 at one time, you know?
Right. There's nothing sacred anymore.
No, just the bread and the circuses. The bread and circuses, that's the one thing that they can't do without.
Right.
It's they got to have it.
Well, they replace all the natural herbs and stuff. Try to replace all natural herbs and stuff with synthetic, with something man-made, a replacement.
And they have those food deserts, but we just laugh and think, you know, well, at least I don't, or why do they loot and this and that, when, I mean, they're priming the revolutionary pump, you know. It's just gonna happen. Well, I've got more to share, if you don't mind. I'm gonna hit that one more time. So let's see what this one is. Portugal seems like it's pretty important to me. So this was kind of look at some of these important things where Queen Isabella, you know, funded Columbus. And it has the longest borders in the world that have been stable. You know, it hasn't grown or shrunk since the 1300s.
Right.
And it just looks highly suspicious of mucho mudfloodio.
Right. Armageddon hit that area pretty good.
And they rebuilt pretty good. I mean, this is, you know, it's just centered around Europe's oldest culture, you know, and Brazil speaks that Portuguese language also.
Right.
So, you know, they were just scooting right back and forth across these continents. Just, that would have been nothing to get to Florida and get scoot up to Georgia, get yourself some Maya Blue.
Right.
Come on back and listen to some Blue Oyster Cult.
Impress everybody with your blue paint.
And don't fear the Reaper.
That's right.
So Portugal, they're on my list as Queen Isabella is a modern Jezebella.
Right.
How about that? I had to think about that one for a couple seconds today. I liked it though. The canals, it's like Venice. What a coinky dink. Portugal. You got a rock and roll band called Portugal the Man.
Right.
Look at that river. You might as well be the Danube.
Right.
Or the Ganges.
Well, it doesn't look like in India. In India, there's always people doing their clothes in there. Got their dadgum cow drinking.
Now that's a Starfort wall. They looked like that's quick on a rickshaw.
Right.
That's how you get down the hill. Up the hill, they didn't show.
Uh-oh.
So you want castles? Go to Obidos.
How'd they get that up there?
It was a karate chop.
They're a meek, mere people.
maybe they had that faith where they could just pray and it would be like the mountains and jump right up there. I hope for that. I pray, Lord, increase my faith. But I mean, that's just a regular Starford Castle. So this is where Columbus ran to get his money to go invade the. Hey, remember those people that don't have any metal over there in the Tierra Incognita? Let's go get them. Let's break those treaties. So anyway, that's what I got on that.
So you think Columbus and Polo and Ponce de Leon, all them knew that there was gold over there, and they just kept making their trips, picking up gold, killing and picking up more gold and spreading around.
I think a lot of this gold that they say they found on their own, they just stole from somebody else. It brought me to a term today, Sonderweg. Sonderweg was first used by German conservatives in the imperial period, you know, the Edwardian period in Germany. Here, I'm getting the Prussian. Yeah, ever heard of the Prussian school, you guys? That's going to brainwash you. And here's a new way to teach your children. Ah, oh, that sounds so forced. I almost started screeching like a little girl.
Were you born at the wrong time?
I could have been. I wish I was born one of those times when you could stand on a tree stump, if that was ever real.
Would you have been a Nazi, or would you have been a Jewish sympathizer?
Jewish sympathizer. Big time. Russian sympathizer.
So what if it was your job?
Well, you know, I would not have a chance to argue with the potter since I am nothing but the clay.
All right.
But that's when all these dictatorships, you know, started coming around, because the conservatives in the imperial, starting in the late 1800s, it was a source of pride at the golden mean, not highlighted but footnoted. 1871 to 1890, good life, dude, or that's the history of the book. But it's governors that, in their view, had been attained by the German state, whose distinctiveness as an authoritarian state lay in taking the initiative in instituting social reform, imposing them without waiting to be pressured by demands from below. And that led historian Hans Ulrich Wöhler of the Bielefeld School, and he places the origins of Germany's path to disaster in the 1860s and 1870s, when world economic modernization took place. First industrial revolution. Gilded Age was next and waiting in the wings.
All right.
Oh, occupy Czechoslovakia. Goodbye, Polish-Lithuanian Palantate. It all ended around World War II. Hafner, Hitler, Wattensfurt, blah, blah, blah.
We got lucky, didn't we?
Yeah, man. Does that sound interesting? Can you guys, do you dig that? Here's where I got this. This guy Armstrong, economics, boy, he had this whole thing figured out about, like, he was way ahead of me. And I think he led, hey, that's out of line. Because as long as you seem interested, Tommy, let's go.
How's that?
Okay. What comes to mind when you think of Germany and Germans?
Cars. Ugly women.
Castles.
Oh, castles. Okay.
J.S. Bach, Beethoven,
Stoof.
Brick, Kant, Heidegger, Gross, and this guy. You think about the Nazis, of course, industrialization and Heidi movies where they're going to defend people's honor.
All right.
And the the making of the modern German state and society, its diversity, and its Sonderweg. I want to thank somebody 40 years ago for making this chart for me that I've never seen or had a chance to use until today. Germany's special path, the German Sonderweg, special path, distinctive German way to modernity, which focuses on the Prussian school. What's the other for that Prussian
Where does
school?
it say that?
I just wanted to ask you, I'm missing, wasn't there another name for that Prussian school that they called it? The Frankfurt School or something?
Something, right?
Yes, it's like my old synapse. I need to get some sweat on it so that my synapses have more salt to fire that electricity.
Right.
I don't want to read all these. You understand it's been researched here. What I'm saying, this special path is not something I made up. Is that good enough?
Right.
Here's that Treaty of Westphalia. There was something to do with like that map that was $10 million the government snatched up and hid. So tons of stuff there if somebody wants to do that copy and paste screen and stuff. So we don't need to read all that here. The French Revolution and the Napoleonic Wars from 1789 to 1815. That's right after the Moscow and Washington, D.C. What a coincidence. They both burned down their cities and their libraries, but still we've got a library, and here's your history. You like it or won't it?
Right. We still have the cities.
Yeah, here's the map of how many different kingdoms and stuff. And this is just, there were little small, kingdoms inside of kingdoms. They exported in those years, and this is, 1789. Let me remind everybody. Off with their heads. Okay, that was the French Revolution period, Napoleonic period, first Napoleonic period.
The guillotine was really swinging, baby.
They loved that Rosicrucian, that liberty, equality, and brotherhood. Liberté, equalité, fraternité. That's where all the fraternal secret organizations came from, man.
Right.
So saw the emergence of nationalism, down with the old kings, that lost, they killed a king in England and in France. The Revolutionary and Napoleonic Wars witnessed the first upsurge of nationalism in European history, partly under the inspiration of the French armies and message of liberty.
But what's amazing about all this is they also tell us 200 years before that, we couldn't even build toilets or anything.
I kind of want to move ahead a little bit. If it's somebody, they can pause that.
We're blind in the dark.
1848. Yeah, the whole can't go potty thing.
Right.
I mean, that's what everybody's always going to think. That's what I was thinking about as a little kid when Superman TV shows were new, and I was going like, I wonder if Superman goes potty.
Right.
Now I know, obviously not.
Yeah.
So it had, France, Vienna, Germany, they're all in it today with China. I think it's the mob. There was a German confederation. Now, see, I'm going to read some of these because it's 1815 to 1830. The German confederation made up of 39, coincidentally, German states, designed to help preserve the status quo rather than as a basis for a united Germany. No, look, I told you that the Morse code while I'm on the air is not going to work, so stop it.
Do what? Am I doing something wrong?
Nope, it's here. The neighbor's pounding on the wall, but think I read Morse code. No, I think they're hanging pictures. So, anyway, the Austrian Chancellor Metternich saw it as a means of preserving the Austrian dominance over German. What? Well, that's Sonderweg, the federal diet. That's what they called their parliaments.
Right.
Met at Frankfurt. That's what we call hot dogs. And was made up of unelected representatives You tell me, Tommy, here in a second. Of
Hmm.
all the states, it was clearly chaired by these representatives unelected in the theory that the parliament or diet could appoint ambassadors, negotiate treaties on behalf of members, and organize a federal army as long as it was done to the unanimous agreement of all 39 states. That sounds
Hey, man.
burdensome. This sounds rare, Tommy.
Right.
Can you help me out on that? How's that going to work?
Well, the way they lay it out here, ambassadors and such just go, hey, we're going to invade. Everybody else agrees.
Oh, that's like George Bush's coalition.
Yeah.
In 1993, it's the first Gulf War operation.
As long as this trusted ally agrees, we're in with them. Everybody else go, yeah, okay, let's do it.
I'm just going to mention that for my definition, or the one that I'm choosing to use in this slideshow for this excellent presentation here, it's Gottfried, Goth, Hegel, Hegelian dialectic, same old story. You can read those later. But let's sum it up from Tony Smith. That's not like, oh, come on. That's not fake, is it? A nation can therefore be defined as a named human population sharing an historic territory, common myths, and historical memories. So if you have a legend of a flood, universal flood, you got the same history,
right? Common myth,
culture, common economy, and common legal rights and duties for all members under law with that blind justice. Finally, 1848. That didn't take too long, did it?
Right.
That Prussian school, doggone it! Look, there's that Kingdom of Prussia. They're
where?
Prussian education right here, man.
Prussians, there they are.
And the Austrian Empire incorporated schools and territories outside the German Confederation. That stinking Sonderweg. Look at that, kind of looks like Goosesteppen, but it's Großdeutschland, Greater Germany. Sprechen Sie Deutsch? Sprechen Sie Großdeutschland? You speak Greater Germany?
I see.
Would incorporate the German-speaking parts of the Austrian Empire. You know what? The only thing we only know about the Austrian Empire. You
What's
take up to any local hill, and those hills are alive with the sound of music.
Are they?
Yeah.
How about Prussia? They were supposed to have been a big bad boy on the block, and they sure got kicked to the curb easy, didn't they?
They laid down and, man, let them walk in. Austria was taken over without a shot being fired.
Right.
Arnold Schwarzenegger's great-grandfather was at the so-called border waving them in. He threw his arm out. He had to put it on ice for a week.
Threw his arm out. Come on in, fellas.
So anyway, that 1848, we skipped that one, but a lot did happen. Economic crisis. This is what led to the socialist revolutions all over. How many? Well, there was this economic crisis that started in 46, 47. While they say people were waiting for a rapture in the United States, another revolution in France. Goodbye, Louis. Hello, Napoleon. Some distant, cadet. You know what a space that really is? It's a placeholder for somebody that can't. It's a bastard that wanted to get into the revolutionary Rome, and hey, just because I'm a bastard doesn't mean I'm not royal. That's what cadet is. Demonstration in Vienna, they fall. Emperor Ferdinand abdicates in favor. Audio sounds like a World War I type of dealio. Prussian troops on march go down. Nice try, though. It lasted 2 days. Another one, there goes their Wilhelm IV. See you later. Agreed to a new principle, new constitution. More fighting in Bolivia. That's just March, Tommy. So I'm going to have to beat that dead horse. So you want me to keep going here? Look at this. through June, but you know these Württemberg troops,
Right.
Frank, Bavaria, Saxony, Hanover, they got King of Prussia. And look at this is what they were doing it in, not wooden huts.
You think they're just occupying that building?
They wanted to go, yeah, when you plan your backstabbery, you do it in a highfalutin place like this to make yourself feel better about your coming genocides.
But don't you think those buildings are the last remnants of the millennial reign? That they're just now the devil's loosed and they're starting to occupy these things, and that's these wars are starting to kill and take over?
I think that these were reoccupied after between 1686 and 1705, and then they came back in and they started faking it and passing out saying, you have the right now to go and break the treaties with Tierra Incognita because they ain't got no swords still. They went into they ended the reaping. So if there whatever the little remnants are that's left,
Right.
let's go get a hold of it, and maybe we can sell some bananas in the bargain.
Right. Gog and Magog. That's where they.
Yeah. So there's this Zollverein, Prussian tariff reform laws. Boy, Jan, same thing. Can they ever come up with something besides trade barriers and custom duties between members were abolished? And how dare you?
Right. That's what it's all about.
Hey, there's Wilhelm I.
Because if we don't have anything to trade with you, why do we even want to talk? What do you got? If you ain't got chocolate, if you ain't got gold, why do we want to talk to you? Go away.
They count his reign going backwards, it looks like here, from 1861 to 1858. He was in on some sort of a steampunk economic boom with the railroad trains would have been massively expanding at this time. President Otto von Manteuffel, 1880, 1858. I wonder if they had to sign an oath that the government has not been changed or you won't be hired. Government has been changed. Come on in. So they went quick. Now, Frederick IV was by 1858 devout Protestant. He believed that he was answerable only to God. That's
Right.
Wilhelm I. I believe that should be 1761 to 1851 was his years of when he was born. Because it says here, well, it says born in 1797.
Right.
Died in 1858. That's my grandfather was only born 30 years, 28, something like that.
Right.
Then my dad was born in like 1833 or 1933, and I was in 58 when there were only 48 states.
You were born back in the middle 1900s, weren't you?
Man, I was 48 states. You know, I wonder what percentage of the people was born in those couple of months between the 48 and 49th. So anybody in the comments remember the 49th state? That would have been Alaska. So they had a new era here in 1858. Maybe we should look hard at that 82 years cycle. These guys
Right.
might be onto something, you know. Otto von Bismarck. You got
Well,
this Bismarck.
That theory's out there in several different forms. One I saw a couple of years back, a guy wrote a book about the pendulum, and it was the same thing, that it swings to tyranny, and then it swings back to, almost anarchy, and you have law and you have control for a while, and it always swings to socialism. It's just a pendulum. And it's the same thing here. 80 years, whatever, pendulum swinging back again. Here we go.
Yeah. Did you like that? Did you like that about those guys? That's pretty cool, huh?
Yep.
That Portugal.
We've been lied to so much.
On them guys. That whole I speak Portuguese. What you
Right.
hiding, guys? What are you hiding? They're Maya hiders. Something's going on between Cambodia and those guys too, man.
But think about this too, that that area there in Mexico, Honduras, all of those through there, those places get wiped out about every few years from hurricanes and different tropical storms. That's just a terrible place through there.
Yeah, those tsunamis.
Yeah, just through our lifetime, what I've seen.
Oh my goodness, that one in Japan.
Yeah, it may be beautiful there and everything, but golly, you get wiped out pretty easy. You know?
So we got that good. We know what the Sonderweg is. That socialist revolutionary cycle is looking good.
Right.
We better keep it rolling here. I want to show you, is there a connection between the Maya and Cambodia? This man seems to think so.
That all the nutriments that were in the trees are now in the soil. It's not at all a bad form of cultivation, except it's highly destructive to the forest. And this is one of the reasons why we believe most of it was cut down. Now, that's not the only form of cultivation that the classic Maya practiced.
See, the reason they don't want the rainforest cut down is because when that happens, all of the old canals are revealed that the whole it was interconnected.
Right.
And overlapping, and you know, some pretty good patterns here to get it all done.
Right.
Within the last 20 years or so, we have come to know from aerial surveys and on-the-ground checking of this, and even through a certain amount of radar survey using side-looking airborne radar, that there is another form of cultivation which was highly intensive in the swampy, low-lying areas, which are very extensive in the Maya region. They cut what are basically ditches and canals, sort of the way the land of Holland was rescued, or the fens of eastern England.
Wow, they're doing it just like that.
Wow, go figure.
Wow, they could do that. They could do that, you know, in the rainforest.
Drainage, leaving rectangular plots which are continuously wet, and using the mud from the ditches to basically fertilize these plots. And this is a highly intensive form of agriculture that was practiced in not really over the whole Maya area, but in certain important places. So they could probably support a lot more people than we gave them credit for, let's say, 50 years ago.
Wow.
Slash and burn cultivation.
Wow. So it wasn't that long ago where they thought, well, they're so dumb, all they could do is just try to burn the forest down to get some nutrients. Well, and they just had a way that it was much better, but they underestimated, oh, they couldn't have been able to figure that out. They're dumb.
And golly, they filtered their water too. Wow.
It just like that other place we found.
Right.
Artificial basins here, really tremendous ones. There's Angkor Wat. This is Angkor Thom, with the royal palace there and the Bayon in the center, and all sorts of other complexes around it. But this thing is really enormous. Flying into Siem Reap from the west, from Bangkok, if you look at the plane, you'll see this. That's the Western Barai, the Western Reservoir here, completely artificial. Stone lined on the edges. It's 8 kilometers long, which is 5 miles long. The center of it is actually right here. This has all been silted up over here. And there's another one on the other side of Angkor that's almost as...
Should anyone in our audience really be impressed by, oh, they made something in the Coliseum to do boats?
Right.
They made a Starfort Lake 8 meters high, 5 miles long.
But did you hear that? It's all silted up now. They can't clean it out? What's going on? How did it get all silted up?
In the course of history, the mud flood just happened, Big T.
Right. I guess. I guess nothing else explains it, right?
And I'm just getting warmed up, Tommy.
You're just getting warmed up, man.
Yeah.
You're starting to break up.
Oh, that's bad news.
Right.
Now I'm sad.
Well, I'm gonna have to cash in my tip. Get with Mama and.
Okay. Yeah, well, we can pick it back up because we're going to have so much more to get into, Tommy.
Right. I will check back with you. Peace.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and just sign off now too. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for this chance to share tonight. We give you all the glory. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho. So Flat Earth Nation, I'll never tell you anything else. Why would we? We have your best interest at heart.
Later.
Yep. Thanks, Tommy.